Hey, how's it going, guys? Today's topic, I want to discuss in full detail what's the difference between a 403b versus IRA account, and not just understanding the pros and cons, but understanding how you could leverage it towards your ideal retirement scenario. And really, the bottom line is that here at Afasi Financial, we believe that you deserve to live the retirement that you've envisioned as quickly as possible without financial stress and without deathbed regrets. So even though that message might sound powerful, what exactly do I mean by that? Well, if you're very educated on the 403b, you're educated on the IRA, you understand that there's specific uses for those, and that could uncover, that could remove the financial stress, remove those question marks as you start nearing retirement, and ultimately when you start progressing throughout your working years up until that retirement point. So how to be most effective, most efficient to accumulate your 403b bucket, how to be most effective, most efficient to maybe use those 403b dollars to roll it over into customized IRA accounts to ultimately give you bliss, to remove that stress, remove that worry, so you could truly live every single day with possibility from now until retirement, from retirement until ultimately date of death. So, what do I mean by that? What is a 403b account? And the most simplistic version of what a 403b account is it's a type of retirement account that when you're working for typically a state institution, so it goes by teachers, preachers, nonprofits. So typically, if you're a teacher, you're working for the state. If maybe you might be working for a church or some sort of entity or nonprofit organization, you may be offered a 403b account. Very similar to the 401k account. It's just a different code of the tax system. But typically with the traditional 403b, what's happening is you're placing dollars, you're making contributions into that plan. The monies that you're placing in there are tax deductible. They grow tax deferred. And then when it comes time for retirement, you'll be able to pull those dollars out for some sort of income, some sort of retirement income. So you're growing this account when you're working. And really how this account grows is by the contributions you're placing in there, by the match that, let's say, the employer that you have, the entity, they might be incentivizing you to place dollars into that sort of account. So if, let's say, you make $100,000 in a given year, you put 3% of your salary, which is $3,000, and the company says we're going to give you 100% match up to 3%. If you put in 3,000, they put in 3,000, 6,000 is ultimately going as a contribution into your account for that year. So you have more dollars to basically work with. If you did not have a match and you put 3% in that example, you would have put in 3,000, nothing would be coming from the employer. Very self-explanatory. Sometimes individuals will go and even though they're matched at 3%, they might put 10% of their salary into their 403b account. And that would mean they put in $10,000 in that example, and the employer is only matching them 3%, $3,000. So $13,000 would be going, as a contribution into, think of it ultimately like a financial tool or like a financial bucket. So the way how this bucket grows is by the contributions you place in, the match. So that's one side of the bucket, and then the other side is the growth, is really that rate of return. So based on how well your investments perform, that's going to determine whether or not you have a positive that's growing that bucket, or whether your bucket's going to get smaller if it results in an investment related loss. So with a typical 403b account, you're going to have anywhere between 10 to about 25 different funding options, different investment options to choose, which is somewhat limited. So, the dollars that you're placing in there, if you went and you created a brokerage account or you created an IRA account, you're going to have thousands of different investment options to choose. But the really good things about 403b accounts is that it's out of sight. So it's ultimately out of sight, out of mind. So if somebody is going and they're making an income and their income is significantly higher than what their expenses are each month, they know if I'm putting monies aside, just like monies that I'm putting aside for Social Security income, or I'm putting aside for my disability insurance or life insurance or whatever that is through my employer plan, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. They're only able to net the dollars at the end of every month, and this other contribution is going to their retirement account. So when you fast forward and you're 10, 20, 30 years of working, you could have a substantial amount of money that's sitting in that account. So it's always wise to make sure you know what you're contributing, knowing what the match is, so you could really leverage the match to full capacity, and then also understanding what your risk tolerance is to really grow those investments as per what your appetite for risk is, so that could correlate. So maybe when you're in your 20s and your 30s, you're going to take on more risk. You might have a higher equity exposure, versus when you start nearing 50s, 60s, you're going to maybe go more into the fixed income asset classes, or a stable value fund that's offered through the 403b account, as opposed to going into the equity, those stock related exposure. So the good thing is obviously it grows. The good thing is it's out of sight, out of mind, versus if you had this extra money in your pocket, well, then you're probably going to spend it. That's typically what individuals do. So by placing it aside into some sort of qualified retirement account, it's out of sight, out of mind. You're contributing, you know it's growing, it's having some sort of investment opportunity to really grow and beat out the pace of inflation so that when you fast forward and you're hitting that retirement stage, you could have this nice large fat bucket sitting there that you could utilize for retirement income later on, or some sort of retirement goal, retirement related need later on. So, and then lastly, really taking advantage of the match. The match is free money. So some mistakes that are made are individuals try to over contribute into there where the match might only be a small amount or there might not be a match. So it really just depends on your specific situation, figuring out what the match is. Typically it's wise to at least do what the match is giving you, but maybe it might not be wise to do anything above the match based on what sort of 403b account you have, whether it's traditional or you might have access to a Roth 403b account. So, those are obviously some of the really good things about a 403b account. So now going over some of the problems that I alluded to, what are some of the problems with the 403b account? And the number one problem is limited investment options. There's only so much juice that you could squeeze on the rate of return side based on really what your risk tolerance is and based on your choices. So remember how that 403b account grows. It grows by the contributions you place in there, the matching money that your employer is giving you, and then it goes by the investments and how well those investments perform. So if you have limited investment opportunities, you might have something that has high cost. There might be low quality related funds, as opposed to going through other sources that could give you a whole multitude of different options. Something you could get very specific off of what your risk tolerance is and be more effective on really an asset allocation strategy than the limited funds that you have available through your 403b. So a rule of thumb is typically a 403b account will have anywhere between about 10 to 25, 10 to 30 different funds or investments to choose from. So you're going to try to cherry pick the best possible ones of those 20, 30 different funds. The other problem is that it might not be the best for risk aversion. So if, let's say you have the individual that is just super risk averse and they said, I hate the market, but I just want to have a bird in the hand. I want to have some sort of fixed rate of return on my money. There may not be any sort of fixed accounts available through the 403b, or you might just have one known as a stable value fund. So if somebody was wanting to leverage the higher interest rate environment and want to leverage a bank product or annuity related product on the fixed side, they may not have those options available. They may just have to stay within bond-related funds or that stable value fund to have some sort of risk aversion set up with their portfolio. So that's where it's not going to be as plentiful of those options, and you might not be able to customize as well as you really like, as you really hope. So that, what would be the negative to that? Well, the negative to that is if you want to be more risk averse and really avoid the ebbs and flows in the market, but you're handcuffed to only being able to choose these funds, those funds could go down in value, and that could obviously be a problem if you're leveraging just bond-related funds and not any sort of stable value fund. So that's where those limited funding options could really hurt from an individual that is risk averse. The other aspect is taxation. So the good thing about a 403b account is any contributions that you're specifically placing in there, that's going to be tax deductible at the end of the year. So like as an example, let's say somebody makes $100,000 and they put $10,000 as a contribution into their 403b account. With all other things being equal, that $10,000 should be tax deductible, meaning that at the end of the year, simplistically speaking, it would show as if you're technically only made $90,000 for that year. That's fine. That's a tax deduction. But what's happening is when you're leveraging a qualified 403b account, you're getting your tax deduction now. The monies are growing tax deferred, so that when it comes time to retire and that bucket is nice and fat, any dollar that you're pulling out in the form of withdrawals is going to be fully taxable because you got the tax deduction up front, got the tax deferral as it went, as it progressed throughout the length of time that you had that account, so that when it comes time when you need that money the most, that's when Uncle Sam, that's when the government's going to start taxing you on those dollars. So from a taxation standpoint, if you're not offered a 403b, a Roth 403b, that could be somewhat of a problem. And this is why, it's typically wise to leverage what the match is, but maybe not anything above the match if you're only handcuffed to a traditional 403b account. You don't have options with that Roth, those Roth 403b accounts or those Roth IRA related opportunities. So you could place dollars into those Roth related accounts, outside of your employer related plan. So now we understand that a 403b, it serves its purpose. It's dollars. It's out of sight, out of mind. You're placing dollars into this, financial tool, financial bucket. Contributions match. That's one side of how it grows. The other side is the rate of return based on those investment options. Now, where does an IRA come into play, and why is an IRA really crucial when you start nearing those retirement years, nearing those retirement stages? So a couple of years out from retirement, and it allows you to optimize what your specific retirement goal is. So you're able to use less of your retirement savings and the specific amount towards customized IRAs set up for a specific purpose. So as an example, three main areas that you could always focus in on to make sure that you're having a confident retirement is I need to have income. If I'm no longer working once I hit my retirement stage, if I don't have income in retirement, then I don't have a retirement. So you want to make sure that any of your retirement assets that you've saved up could at least produce some sort of max income stream that correlates to what your expenses are. So if you have Social Security income, that's some sort of cash flow that's going to be coming to you retirement. Let's say if you have a pension plan, that's going to be some sort of cash flow stream that's going to be coming to you when you hit your retirement stage, when you're no longer working. So now if you have this 403b bucket that's nice and fat that's sitting there, which portion of that 403b do you want to put aside to create a max income strategy so that your Social Security, your pension, your a customized IRA from your 403b savings, all three of those could now spit off monthly lifetime income for you or you and your spouse. And now anything left over, you can have fun with. You could use that for emergency needs. You could use that for vacation related needs, for inflation hedge, growth related needs, for an inheritance maximization. There's for Roth conversion opportunities. There's so many uses for it. But by staying put with the 403b account, you may be shooting yourself in the foot because of those limitations. You want to have flexibility and make sure that you're only leveraging the smallest dollars only as much as necessary to accomplish your ideal retirement scenario and not put a dollar more. What do I mean by that? Well, if you add too many dollars towards an income related need, well, then that's going to take away from the flexibility when you start hitting retirement. If let's say you have $600,000 that's sitting in a 403b account, you say, okay, if I go and I leverage $200,000, put this into an IRA that's customized, is going to spit off $20,000 of income. That $20,000 of income could close up where your income gap is. But maybe you say, okay, well, that's $20,000. If I put the full $600,000 in there, that's going to give me $60,000 of income. Well, if you don't need $60,000, if you don't have an income gap of $60,000, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're placing it all into some sort of income-related strategy where maybe you should have teetered off portions of dollars for an emergency need and for that growth-related need. So same thing. You don't want to throw everything towards a growth and accumulation strategy when you may need that for income. So optimize each lane effectively. And that's typically the best way to do it. And this is where an IRA comes into play and allows you to do this. You can have multitude of IRAs. You could have 5, 6, 7, 10 different IRAs that are all serving a specific purpose. One for max fixed growth. Another for max growth from a pure risky standpoint. So maybe you're leveraging low cost ETFs and you're allowing the market to kind of ebb and flow, and that's going to be a sliver of your dollars. Maybe you're leveraging another portion towards some sort of max inheritance and max death benefit play. Another one, you're using it for a max income play for both you or you and your spouse. There's so many uses in there. Another portion you could use towards a money market account. So it's just all about, making sure that you're not throwing everything towards one specific goal, but you're able to kind of cherry pick it. And when you're able to have those options of those different buckets available, it gives you peace of mind. It gives you bliss. It removes all that financial stress. As opposed to just saying, "Oh, I hope I didn't make this wrong mistake. I hope I didn't mess this up." And that's ultimately what we're trying to do with this video, and whenever we have our connection calls with individuals. So we understand that IRAs allow us to customize, and we can be very effective, very efficient with IRA accounts. But there are a lot of problems with IRAs where 403b is a perfect solution, and it really comes down to accumulation. So with a 403b account, there's an incentive to stay within that 403b account, as typically the incentive is the match. When you create an IRA, you could make contributions into an IRA. The contribution limitations are significantly lower than what you could max contribute into a 403b account. So let's say if you're behind the game and you're about 10 years out from retirement or 15 years out from retirement, you're like, hey, I really have to jolt up what these contributions are. A more effective route might be max funding that 403b to really accumulate those dollars better, because you're able to place it in there, place it towards that type of retirement bucket, and really take advantage of the company match, of the employer match. The incentive is for the employer to say, hey, we want this employee to stay with us. So if we're giving a 5% match versus the other company up the road is only giving a 3% match, this employee is going to stay with us, is going to be loyal to us because we're giving them a higher match. There's a higher monetary incentive there. With an IRA, it's more geared for the dollars that you want to take from existing assets that you've already accumulated and roll it over. You can create an IRA, you can make contributions to an IRA, but in doing so, you're not getting a match because it's an IRA, an individual retirement account. You're not going to be matching yourself. The employer is the one that matches the employee, and that match makes mathematical sense. That match is ultimately free money that's going onto your contribution side of that financial bucket. With an IRA, you're going to be limited on the contributions, and then obviously you're not getting free money because it's just yourself. It's an individual. It's not through the employer. Also, you have 59 and a half rules for withdrawal. So you have different rules. Rule 72T that allows individual to take equal payments before age 59 and a half. But for the most part, individuals that place dollars into an IRA to be most effective is they're going to want to start taking distributions from that account after age 59 and a half. If they take those dollars after age 59 and a half, they will not get penalized. If, let's say, they try to take out large withdrawals before 59 and a half, they could get penalized with a 10% penalty, and they could also get fully taxed on those dollars because they're pre-tax qualified retirement account. So you want to be very mindful of those 59 and a half rules. There's been times where individuals, let's say that they leave an employer and they just decide, okay, I have my 403B account at this old employer. I'm going to go roll it over to an IRA. Then, they start living a little bit further. They're working for a new employer, and they say, okay, I came into some sort of hardship, or I want to, do a reconstruction of my house. And they liquidate their IRA account, and they might be in their 40s or their early 50s. That is a huge mistake, because not only are they getting taxed on those dollars that they're pulling out, but then they're also getting dinged with that 10% penalty. So any dollars that you want to really leverage for that retirement need, make sure to keep those past age 59 and a half, especially if you're looking to retire in your 60s, 65, 67, something that's effective. But you might not want to place a large amount of dollars into those qualified plans if you know that you want to retire before the age of 59 and a half. So those are some of the problems with IRA accounts. And then really the Roth IRA versus Roth 403B contribution limits. If you're offered a Roth 403B account, that could be very powerful because it's non-discriminatory. With a Roth IRA account, what happens is your dollars that the contributions that you make into a Roth IRA, they're post-tax. You don't get the tax deduction now, but the monies grow within that account tax-free, so that when it comes time to pull those monies out, you're pulling those dollars out tax-free. Same concept with a Roth 403B account. If you're offered a Roth 403B, the contributions you're placing into it, you're not getting a tax deduction now. The monies are growing tax-free, so that when it comes time to start pulling out those dollars for income, you can pull those dollars out tax-free. Roth 403B contribution limits are significantly higher than Roth IRA limits. Also with Roth IRA, if you make too much money, you cannot contribute to a Roth IRA account. With a Roth 403B, it doesn't matter how much money you make, you will not be phased out because it's non-discriminatory with those Roth 403B contribution limits. So there's just these different nuances that, especially if you're trying to really target an ideal retirement date, you want to be as mathematically efficient for your accumulation stage, to be as efficient, as tax efficient with the growth of that account, and really what you'll be able to pull out from withdrawals later on as you start nearing those stages. So whether you're 15, 10, 5, 2 years out from retirement, you just want to make sure that you're understanding how the tax qualification works. And by placing dollars into the IRA, it might not be most tax effective to what your ultimate retirement goal is. So, just understand what some of the problems are with the IRA accounts, with the traditional IRAs, and the contribution limitations and the 59 and a half rule, where maybe, you may not be victim to those with the 403B related account. So what is the goal? And the goal for any sort of situation, being more knowledgeable about 403B accounts and IRA accounts and 401k accounts and retirement planning and all of that, what does it come down to? It comes down to removing financial stress and then ultimately removing deathbed regrets. And that's one of the things that we believe wholeheartedly with our company is individuals deserve to live the retirement they've envisioned as quickly as possible without financial stress, without deathbed regrets, so that you could truly live every single day with possibility from now until you hit that ideal retirement stage going forward. How do you remove financial stress? And you just have to ask yourself some very simple questions. When do you want to stop working, or ideally want to stop working? Because things could obviously change. Let's say if ideally I want to retire at 65, and all of a sudden you come into age 62 and you're just like, I am so freaking done with this. I want to stop working immediately. Well, that could obviously, change some things. But ideally, when do you want to stop working? How much will your expenses be at that time? So if you know the date, or the right around the date, the approximate date of when you want to ultimately stop working and start living the retirement you've envisioned, how much will your expenses be at that point? At that point, when you stop working, what are some of your income sources going to be coming to you? Do you have rental properties where you're going to be receiving cash flow from rental properties? Do you have Social Security income that you could trigger at that specific point? Do you have pension income that you could trigger at that specific point? What is the exact monthly expenses? What are those monthly expenses going to be? Are they going to get higher or lower? Maybe you're going to pay off a house a couple of years, into retirement, and that's going to reduce your mortgage payment and reduce those expenses. So just, quantifying what those expenses are and then backing up into the math. Okay, I have this retirement savings, sitting here. Once I hit retirement stage, I'm selling my house, and now I'm going to have this large, non-qualified cash account to sit there. That's part of my retirement savings bucket that I could use to close up what my expense gap is. My 403B account, this is a nice retirement savings bucket that I could use to close up that expense, that expense gap. So it's all about cherry picking and saying, okay, if I have X amount of dollars of expenses, how do I close up those gaps, have some sort of baseline, so my income in retirement, when I'm no longer working, my income is greater than or equal to my expenses. Whatever I did not use up to make that attainable, to make that possible, now you could go on to, what do I need from an emergency needs standpoint? Anywhere between, rule of thumb, about 6 to 12 months of whatever your expenses are. How can I leave this aside into some sort of liquid account, whether it's savings, checking, a money market account within an IRA that you could liquidate very easily, something that's not at fault to risk, and just be able to pull from at the drop of a hat, in case some sort of medical ailment occurs, or some sort of you have to take an emergency trip, or some sort of emergency related situation. Oh my gosh, moment was to occur. That's what those emergency needs are for. And then lastly is your fund money. That's your growth. That's your inflationary related bucket. The ultimate goal for everybody should try to use the smallest dollars only as much as necessary towards their income need, the smallest amount of dollars only as much as necessary towards their emergency need, so you have as much money left over in the ancillary bucket as possible, so that now you got a bliss. And there's so many different uses to that. You can use it for inheritance, maximization. You could use that for long-term care related expense goal. You could use that for your vacation fund. You could use that to really as a dream scenario. Now, if crap hit the fan, and let's say you took too much risk on that growth related strategy, well, you still have your income and your emergency needs to fall back on, because you created that strategy, you created that that baseline effectively, so that it's allowing you to live the retirement you've envisioned, allow you to do that as quickly as possible without financial stress, without those deathbed regrets. When you come to that point in your life where you're looking up at your family members, or you're looking back on your life, it's not saying, okay, I wish I would have worked more hours. It's like, no, I wish I would have worked out more. I wish I would have enjoyed nature more. I wish I would have fished more, golfed more, enjoyed my actual life, not just work to die. And that's that's one of the things that I'm trying to remove on a national basis for every individual, to become educated and understand that it is possible. It's possible to use your specific scenario and make sure that you're removing that financial stress, removing those deathbed regrets, and how could you mathematically do it so that it eliminates all that heartache, it eliminates all that craziness, so that you never second guess yourself when you do hit that retirement stage. I want to thank you very much for watching this video. If you have any questions, if you'd like to schedule a connection call with one of our advisors, simply call our 1-800 number up on the screen, 1-800-566-1002, or you can simply click on the calendar link that's embedded in the description of this video. Once again, take your time, make sure to watch this video as many times over so it makes sense. And really what the connection call is meant for is to do a really deep dive on what's most important to you, an inch wide, mile deep, to figure out what is your goal and where are you at right now. What are some of the really good things that you've done, and regardless if we ever work together or not, we want to provide some sort of value for you. Once again, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed, and be on the lookout for my upcoming videos. Thanks so much.